She has a long video. What do you want? Sorry.
We have hard copies up there.
We don't have a hard copy of it. Oh, on the agenda, yeah. I just thought this was going to be nice and quick.
It's okay, don't worry about it. No. Reasonable.
Lydia just turned off the mic for them, so I'm hoping she sees and turns on for us so we can hear. Thank you.
So what's your name for right now?
There we go.
Super grainy and weird, so
Your phone, your laptop.
I saw it. Yeah.
We do have papers in the agenda. Smart. I printed some. I didn't print the agenda, I just printed some from last week. Yeah, that one I printed from last week. Yeah. She printed the new. I want to know, compare the middle school against the high school. Yeah. See what the differences were. Mine, I would have named this to she did. Yeah.
Open up your book. Yeah, you guys gotta open a internet browser. Yeah.
That's just
And then we're supposed to start with top for you.
Yeah, there's her own.
Thank you. It's gonna get.
All right, we're good.
Yes.
All right. It's 6:02. I call the board meeting to order. Slide to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, roll call. Gary Arrows.
Here.
Lee Rulo.
Here.
Chris Ravish.
Here.
Lonnie Holstein.
Here.
Aubrey Rorchik is here. Kate Rorchik is excused. Brad Fuby.
Present. We have on here, just a quick comment, invite the community and the board members to join us for the annual barbecue. It's starting at 4:30 outside the library.
So we're in our next meeting, the 27th.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the.
yeah, what date?
The 27th.
The 27th, okay. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I need a Motion,
Move to approve the agenda.
Or
got a motion support, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the community comments on the agenda. As presented. Okay, seeing none. Move on to our presentation from Chip.
I'm Craig Carmody from IDI. So if you'd like me to take over at this point, I can. But a couple important introductions. So Chip Hendrick is virtual, and Julia Krieger is the architect that has been working on your project from IDI. So Andy sent us questions that we're kind of prepared to go over some information for you this evening. So Julia will be able to hopefully do some screen sharing, and she's prepared to show you some examples of some proposed ideas, kind of go over some of the questions that Andy had. I will be going over some information related to what happens between now and the election date in November, in terms of these are the next steps in terms of preparing information, getting information out to the public, creating the website, going live, and those next steps as well. But I think probably best served right now to let Julia kind of talk about her part of the presentation, because that's probably the most exciting part.
thanks for the intro, Craig. Is my audio okay? Can everybody hear me? Okay. All right, so yep, I'm Julia from Integrated Designs. I'll be the architect and project manager working with you guys on the project. And I guess I don't know what the group has seen or hasn't seen yet. So Andy, I'm assuming the group saw the plan that went with the Treasury application?
Yes, correct.
Okay, perfect. So to provide some context, just for that plan and kind of the reason why we include that, the application to Treasury requires us to include some kind of floor plan, like anything, just so that we can show that we are not exceeding like a teaching station calculation that they require us to do as part of that state application. We need to be able to show that we're not building more teaching stations than the enrollment projections would support. So as part of that process, we'll usually put together kind of like a very first rough draft of a floor plan, purely for the purpose of including with the application. And that's what you saw attached. On my list of questions from Andy, there were some questions about, when do we actually like review the floor plan, design it, what if we need to make changes? And that's part of that. Once the bond passes, we'll kick off the project, and then we'll begin that whole process. And we can all even, we can talk about it now broadly too, or if there's anything that you guys want to include in the messaging to the community and things like that, I can update that on the plans as we go between now and the election too. But I just wanted to provide that context that you're not locked into what was shown on that application. It's really just for that teaching station calculation. So I can. Andy, would you like me to share my screen and kind of bring up that addition?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Can you do that? Can you share?
So, well, let's see. Let's give it a go.
And maybe it might be able to give you
Yeah,
access.
I'll try it out.
From my knowledge, she should be able to, just on the bottom of the screen. It's like a little window with a up arrow.
There we go.
So that,
Yep.
all right. So this is that floor plan that you saw with the application, but overlaid on the site plan on campus there with the high school. So it kind of gives a little bit of better context with how we might connect, where the building might sit. Obviously, what's missing here is we haven't done any of that site design. That just because there's just so much to discuss about potential traffic flow, parking locations. Will we loop the road around the elementary to connect to this parking lot? A lot of options, a lot of possibilities, and it's something we'll work through more as we go. I know sometimes that traffic flow and parking is an important part of like messaging when the community asks about like how's this going to fit on the site. So we can work through some of that in the coming month. Part of the intent with the addition was to utilize this wing of the existing secondary school to give us some flexibility with the number of classrooms we had to add so that we could get down to that budget number below at that, I think it was 19.9, 7, 8. 9. So in order to get down, we are kind of banking on utilizing some of those existing classrooms. But beyond that, this is really just a diagram. We wanted to show an option for how this could fit the site. With this diagram, we've got wings of classrooms on either end with a cafeteria and kitchen in the center. I think there were some options discussed early on about will classrooms each have their own bathroom or won't they? And that's all still within, that decision making that we'll do later on when the bond passes. We're showing a main entrance on this side of the building.
Excuse me, with that
So
question.
kind of similar to how the current elementary school
Excuse me.
is access. The thought was to keep that, but obviously we have to provide, parking and
Should
think
have
through
wheels, yeah.
other attributes on the site to accommodate that. But right now it's shown that way. Again, really not locked into anything, just a diagram.
Julia, there is a question.
Yeah.
So you said bathrooms, and we can decide that later. So when a parent approaches and says, will there be bathrooms in in the kindergarten classrooms? The answer is maybe.
I think that if you know programmatically that you want to have bathrooms in the kindergarten classrooms, then I think you say yes to that. It's very much up to you, Andy and the school board, if you want to make those that we budgeted to be able to, I think we budgeted for kindergarten and maybe first to have bathrooms. I can't recall, Andy, we'd have to go back and look at the exact number of classrooms. We sort of did like a 50-50. It did not make a huge budget difference whether we did the individual bathrooms in the rooms versus the gang toilet rooms. There is a little bit of a change, but obviously all of that, once we start schematic design, can be worked in. So if you wanted restrooms in every single classroom, that might be a little bit more than what was budgeted. But I think if you guys know we have to build a school with kindergarten classrooms that have bathrooms, you can say that. I think that's just part of that campaigning and the decisions you can make. So if you want to make those decisions now, then that's that list of decisions we'll bring into the project when we start designing in November.
I do think
I'm
we
just
had,
curious how we do like a 7
K1 and 2 for sure. And then
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, hopefully we can, but if not, depending on where we're at with the budget, then that's what we would do.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the thought.
I'm just concerned when you say we don't know that we have 7 people here, and if they ask 2 people the same question, we give different answers. That's not very confident. That's not a very good confidence builder. We know what we're doing.
And it's not that we
Or if I
don't
said-
know,
or if I
it's
said
just that we
yes.
haven't been direct. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess if you guys are comfortable to make those decisions and decide on that as part of the campaigning process, you can. I think you'll have the flexibility to do it. I think, in the past what we found is you just don't want to, like we said, we're reusing about 8 classrooms in the existing building. We won't be adding restrooms in those 8 classrooms. That's off the table. So I think it's just being careful about what you do message and making sure that anything that you're relaying to the community is achievable. And I think if there's ever questions about that, Craig and I are always very happy to help. And as we develop those campaign materials, we'll make sure that we're vetting that with the budget and not accidentally committing to something that we can't achieve.
Yeah, one of the things that we do try to make sure is that we don't want you to be in a position where you're going to overpromise
Right.
and then underdeliver. And so, we're not trying to provide so much detail that we put you in a position that you said you were going to have 8 outlets in every classroom, and now there's only 7. So it's a broader concept at this point that gets narrowed down during that design process. And the design process, there's a lot of checks and balances that go with that design process. So you've got Chip on the construction manager side of things, that as we design, Chip is looking at that and kind of giving the go-ahead that, yes, we're still within budget. We can proceed with what, the district wants and where we're at with, within that budget. And, those are the checks and balances. Now, we don't really know until we actually put everything out to bid. But Chip does a very good job of estimating and knowing where things, have been coming in. So those are the things that when we get down to those types of details, that, that team is still working with you to make sure that we're still delivering what you're expecting.
I'm gonna bounce the question from out of here, talk about the bathroom. John, what grade? First, kindergarten through third? What would you estimate should have a bathroom in the room?
I would do them all, but, at least a K through 3.
Cause I'm just trying to go back on Gary's question. We gotta know.
Yeah, so I guess we're gonna go, I'll be more patient to hear the timeline, but I'm thinking like, someone says, does it have a picture for a flat roof? Well, we'll wait to see until after it passes. Oh, then you'll never know. Could be their answer back, because I asked you, if you don't know that. Do we know that?
Well,
It's
There's a million questions, how do we handle this as people try to sell this bond?
So if you have a strong, so for instance, to use the roof question as a good example, if the district has a strong opinion on the type of roof, then that's something that we can, message and incorporate. My recommendation would be to, and we can talk about how to message it, but most often, school districts don't, pay architects to design projects before,
Right.
it's a huge financial commitment that we usually don't wanna do until we know we got the funds to pass the project. So I think we would have to work on usually what you would have that's like an approved part is what we call like a project program. So that's kind of your grocery list of here's the goals of the project that we're gonna meet. And I think that's gonna be the most important part of like those questions and the answers is that the roof type is gonna depend on budget and estimating and seeing what we can do. We know we're gonna have a roof with a minimum of 20-year warranty because that's just gonna be a standard, you know what I mean? So there's certain quality levels that I think we can discuss and we can standardize. But do we know the exact height of the building? Do we know, things like that?
Right.
Probably not at this point because that's gonna be part of that budget deliberation where, we want bathrooms in every single room. Maybe that means, as we look into those deeper estimates, there's always going to be trade-offs, right? You can't have everything. So it's kind of like, do we need to figure out, does the height of the building change? Does the size of something change a little to accommodate the must-haves? And then there's the want-to-haves, right? And we're going to try to absolutely maximize that budget to give you everything you can get. But we got to stay within the budget ultimately. So I think that's probably the key. Things, and again, things like, roofs or canopies or amounts of windows, I think if there's certain items that you guys do feel like the community's gonna have a really strong opinion on, then we should absolutely discuss those and see if we can lock it in if it's possible. But I think if it's something, I would hope that the community would be understanding of the fact that you guys can't pay to have the whole building designed before they've even given you approval to move everybody on campus. I guess if that makes sense.
Curious what the rest of you are hearing, but I get a lot of questions on what a cafeteria is already.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're gonna have to ask you for help with. Because that, we have to sell that, I believe. You all agree?
Yes, and the traffic pattern, I get a lot of questions about the traffic.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think those are big items like traffic pattern.
And
I think we
and
need
security.
to, have some diagrams and have some options and answers. And then, if the cafeteria, if it's an absolutely necessary thing, then we're going to have to find a way to work that in and make sure that's part of the project program.
And security.
Mm-hmm.
Just one other quick thing too is that we cut over $3 million where before we cut, every classroom did have a bathroom. That was the idea. So when we had to go through and make things not as available, hope maybe it will if the money is there and the the cost of everything is lower than we thought, then we can. But it's just one of those items that possibly could not be there for third, fourth, fifth grade, due to getting it under $20 million too. That's where that came from.
And I guess the other piece is even if third, fourth, and fifth don't necessarily have classroom bathrooms, I think because I know there's discussion of how do we keep the middle school elementary center. I think it's still important to note that they still will have their own bathrooms. So we'd still be including gang restrooms in the addition that would serve only those grades. It's not that they'd be like going into the middle school area to use a shared bathroom. So it would still be very much like age appropriate, delineated and separate between the different ages. Then I think that's part of what we can make sure we're including in campaign materials too, is just that that clear delineation between those areas. I think is going to be very achievable with how we're connecting the buildings.
So Julia, will there be some sort of diagram or drawing or something before, once we start pounding the pavement and showing people what it is? Like we'll have something on an easel, with showing, but even that is an idea that could be changed after the bond. Okay.
Yeah, typically that's exactly what we would do, Andy, is provide some diagrams and we can workshop the one that we provide, the one that we included with the treasury application. I would anticipate that in the next couple of weeks we can get together, kind of workshop that a little bit to see what we do want to include on the posters. Because sometimes you don't want to necessarily label every single grade level and stuff like that, but maybe just showing that overall flow, how it connects, where are those security kind of switches and things like that is nice to diagram. So, and we've done it and kind of show a few examples we've used at other projects too, just to see if that, works. So, but yeah, for sure. I would anticipate having something that you guys would have available to include in pamphlets and boards and things like that.
And I did talk with Craig, I think it was last week, about the timeline of things, and Craig did say it would be good to have that. I make sure I'm saying this right, Craig, that when I do my kind of town hall meetings, when I go around, that it would be nice to have a plan, as we were talking about, so that I can answer some of those questions that we have and not, have those meetings before we have enough information to share. That really is what's needed.
So, in terms of some of the next steps that I'll be doing with Andy and the district. So, July is going to be a pretty busy month. It's not the month that we start campaigning, but it is certainly the month of preparation. So July becomes, as the board, you have the resolution to call for the election. That resolution is due to the county clerk. I think it's either the 10th or 11th of August, so you'll be in plenty of time for that. So we'll be creating those brochures at that point.
We did that.
I think we approved.
Oh, you approved? Have you approved the call for the election or the PQA?
PQA.
Okay, so the PQA is the first step. The second step then, your bond counsel is going to prepare the call for the election, and that's going to be done in your July board meeting. Once that is done, that gets signed, I believe, by the secretary, and I think one other person on your board will sign that. That gets delivered then to the county clerk to become part of the official ballot then. So that resolution will include the ballot language that you've already seen. So there's one more step, and that step there can't be done until the 30-day window for Treasury to review the application that you approved gets done. So that's the next step as far as the board is to pass that call for the election. So that's the July board meeting. You'll be doing that. In the meantime, I'm going to be working with Andy on developing brochures that you can hand out to your community, talking about what's going to be on your website. You've already done that survey, so when it comes to FAQs, you've already heard back from a lot of your community about, we've got these questions. We want to know some answers to that. So we're going to be preparing FAQs. Now, in this case, because your brochure and poster, you may want to include some of that information just on the information that you're handing out, because if there are 5 things that your community absolutely wants to know, you might be able to answer all of those and hand that information out. So, we'll talk about what that looks like, because that will be tailored specifically to what's going to be most beneficial for your community to know. So, and I think that, the survey that you already conducted had a lot of themes around what are questions that your community has that we're starting to, that we're able to answer at this point. One of the ones, for example, when we looked at those 8 additional classrooms and how do we separate the elementary students from your secondary students, Julie already had that as an answer. It won't affect your egress for fire or any, the fire marshal will, there's a plan there that, hey, this will be approved by the fire marshal because we can have we've got egress there. So we've already taken a look at some of those things, and I know that those are really important for your community.
So how do they get to gym class without going through the high school?
They will be going through hallways, and these are things that we can talk about, when we get closer. But there are no classrooms going from the elementary through the halls to the gym, to the high school gym, if that's where they're going to be. And that's something that, like I said, we're 3 years off, that we would have to see the schedule and what it's like. If they would go to the middle school gym, then they would pass middle school classrooms. But if they were going to the high school gym, they would not pass any classrooms.
Yeah, I was trying to pull it up here. This helps, but so they can kind of come around this way. That helps.
Yeah, past the library.
Yep. So they go boop. So they're like Andy said, and currently what the thought is, and we haven't delineated this exactly, but if we wanted an actual hard separation, we could do that with doors. If we find there's a need to do that, but really there's kind of a natural separation with this area that connects kind of the library and the gym back over to the middle school. So I think it's something that we could look at managing without the doors, but in the future, even if you felt like you needed doors, you could always have them too. So we can. Well, that again, those are the details we can talk through as we develop materials, but yeah.
So you'll have time, during the month of July that we'll start drafting materials that you'll be able to see some of that development. We want that ready to go live right around the end of the first week of August, right around August 10th. So what we're trying to do is coincide with your back to school activities, where you've got some, open houses, your start of your athletic season, you've got your community starting to come back into your schools, and that's the time that we start providing them that information to your community, that Andy starts meeting with, every single member of the staff to go over the plans, provide an opportunity to, ask questions, and then hold those community forums as well. So, that's really August and September are the big months for getting information out to your community. In September, around the 25th, absentee ballots start becoming available. And so that's why we try to target August, September for getting information out, because people can already start voting by October 1st. So October becomes mobilizing your people to start voting at that point, your absentee voters, but also before, because this is a state and federal election, 9 days of early voting starts at the end of October. So you're really looking around about the 23rd of October, in-person voting is starting as well. So those are, it's a little bit different than other elections, where it's only that election day. You do have that 9 days of in-person, voting. A lot of mobilizing around, your open houses, athletic events, mobilizing your PTO, mobilizing youth sports groups. your band parents, your athletic parents, your elementary parents especially, because they've, there's a lot to be gained for younger families especially. Generally speaking, a November governor's election gets a lot more parents to vote. Only 20 to 25% in most elections, only 20 to 25% of parents vote. In this election, we're hoping that number becomes more like 40%. You've already seen some of your survey data, and if that does become, a larger percentage of your voting population, obviously that is a benefit to the district. So we really want to make sure that we're activating your parents with this. So, and then we get to November, and hopefully we've done enough, provided enough information, and I know this board has really listened to the community, worked hard, tried to get a number that seems to be a little more palatable as you've listened to your community to say this is the number we think that the community is more likely to support. So that's the work that we have in front of us, and right after the 4th of July, we're going to really be getting to work finalizing some of the information that you can start sharing with your community. So what we try not to do, and this becomes a question, why aren't we already doing it? What you don't want to do is have people peaking September 1st, because then people go, oh yeah, and then they're inundated with all of the other election stuff out there. We want to be hitting kind of that sweet spot where they want to listen, they want to be informed, but they still have it on their mind when they're thinking about voting. So,
what group do you use in July?
So the groups that we start using in July, so I'm going to be providing some sample information for Andy to start looking at. And we start, okay, here's examples of things that other districts doing similar projects have done, and then we start tailoring it to Pinconning. So that will primarily be creating the website. So the district will be the one that will create the website, but looking at the material that will be put on the website, looking at the trifolds of the brochures, you'll be able to distribute. So, let's say we have 1,000 copies of those. Yep.
So Andy, we don't use teachers or administrators?
At this point, for that information, probably not. But what Andy will probably want to do is we'll get to a draft. It's not unusual for us to do 10 different drafts before we get to a final one. So, we'll start with that draft. And then what superintendents quite often do is they're going to start sharing those drafts then out with others to get feedback as we tweak those drafts. So, there are days where we may do 5 different drafts in one day. It'd be like, okay, we want to change this. Okay, we've changed that. Somebody else said to change this. It might be changing a picture. It might be changing some of that other stuff, but we really try to make sure that we've bounced it off enough people to make sure that we have the information that you want out there. Andy, anything that I've missed that you wanted covered? Chip, anything that you want to add?
No, I'm all set. I think Julie really hit it, that we'll be working close with design and team and the school team with schematic design estimates, design development estimates, so that we want to make sure that when it comes time, we're actually putting out for bids that we're going to hit our target. I've been extremely familiar with Pinconning School District, been working with them for a long time. And I think this is a good plan and a good step forward.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting, and it's got a lot of benefits, I think, for your instructional programs. To try to bring some balance to your elementary class sizes, bring some efficiency, and provide really the learning environment I think that your teachers and students are really looking for. could have put a lot of money into those elementary schools, but they'd still be 70-year-old buildings, so. Great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Andy, you gotta get to your other meeting.
No, I can do my communication.
I was gonna say, because we could bounce Hunter if we need, and have you do yours first. Or you got nothing?
Yeah, if I can do mine first, that would be great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, great.
All right, so we're gonna switch things up because Andy has something else. So we're gonna move on to Andy's, our superintendent's, communication.
All right, thank you. First off, I wanted to thank the Pinconning Chamber and everybody that was involved with our Cheesetown Festival this past weekend. A lot of work went into it. We had a lot of help from our Pinconning crew as well, especially like Tina Davidson was there at the mac and cheese cook-off for many hours on Friday, making that run very smoothly. But it was just great to see our community with all of the different things, the concerts, the races, the festival, the carnival. I mean, it was a great weekend, and I really wanted to tell the chamber how thankful we were for allowing that for our community. The bond info, I just wanted to make sure and thank them for being there tonight. And also, if you have more, I mean, this small presentation may bring up more thoughts and questions, and please send them to me. I'm going to keep track of them, and I'm in close contact with Julia and Craig, so we can make sure we get those answers to you as they come up. Lydia and I have been working on a community newsletter. If you remember our survey, a large portion of the people said they don't know much about Pinconning to vote for us, and that they would like things through the mail. So we have created a newsletter. Lydia was looking at costs and the process and how we go about getting it to everybody in the community, just like we did that survey. So we're still looking at that, but we're hoping to have that out in the next week or two. A lot of great information. We don't know if we have to decrease its size, because we could have up to 8 pages of great information and things for our community that we want to make sure we get in everything that we can. So she's looking into that, and we'll be sharing that with you as well. And then the final thing I didn't have on my notes, but I wanted to pass it along to you because I've got some information. At our last board meeting, we talked about the possibility of another GSRP classroom. I had Mr. Sanford talk to our the person that makes sure the rooms are okay, and they came out last week and said that the one room that we have would be possible. It'd have to be cleaned up quite a bit, but it would fit the criteria to be a GSRP classroom. I did talk to Ms. Briggs, who said we had around 10 on the waiting list last year. We're not sure. I mean, she expects there to be kids on the waiting list this year, but we're not sure how many. And then I also talked to the ISD, Gretchen Wagner, and I said, is it even possible to have another classroom by this fall? And she said it is. We would have to find the staff, and if they are there, it's possible that we could do this. I think it's a pretty good amount of work to get it done, but if we have the kids and can find the staff, I would like to give it a try, but that's something, that the board and the GSRP has their money that comes in. Sometimes there are grants. Last year there was a $50,000 startup grant, which we may be eligible for. I'll talk to Hunter about that. I just learned some of this information on Friday at my superintendent's meeting, so I haven't had a chance to talk to Hunter yet. But that's some of the progress. I wanted to at least fill you in with, I was looking into that additional classroom. Any questions?
I think we're all set, Andy.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll move back.
Oh, we need a presentation. Hunter, why didn't you say really anything? Yeah, you did. Just have it aside. Sorry, guys.
No. Now, an attachment just popped up on this. I didn't have that this weekend. Is that doing something wrong? Did you guys have that?
It was yet to be
attachment?
provided.
Which one?
Is that what it was? Okay.
Oh, but yes.
That was, I didn't have that this weekend.
No.
Okay.
None of it.
No, okay, that's it.
Which one?
No, it was whatever time it was on there, is when it was provided.
Okay. Well, there it says 1:30, it came up.
Yeah.
That,
You'll be able to check that, so you know.
yeah, I see, yeah.
Mhm.
I was thinking, man, I missed that.
No, I will.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is going to be our final amendment for 25-26 for our general fund, our food service fund, and our student activity fund, and also our original budgets for next year. So a little bit about general fund early on, so state and federal variations, 25-26. One thing to note is this year we had, typically over the years, we've had a significant amount of carryover for transportation fund through state aid. This year we'll be recognizing that carryover. That carryover amount was about $210,000. So that'll be all recognized this year. Big topic, 27L grants through state aid. These are one-time grants. One was for educator compensation, which everyone in the district, besides Andy, received this bonus. The other side of it was the healthcare side of it, where there was no benefit paid out to employees. That was just to help supplement districts on healthcare costs. And the last unique item for federal purposes was the Filters First grant. This was the grant that was awarded to pretty much every school district to replace out water filters throughout the district using federal money, to ones that include filters. We were awarded about $150,000 to replace all of our water fountains in the districts. It actually cost us only about $70,000. So no real added expenditure from that. Really truly was in and out. So no additional cost to the district. Looking at 26-27, the state budget unfortunately has not been passed yet still. Legislators are still talking about it. There was bipartisan agreement, however, regarding the foundation allowance, seeing a $250 increase. The representatives, senators, and governor all agreed to that, but it's still being discussed, and that student count is still unknown. So looking at the 25-26 general fund amendment for revenues, you'll see that property taxes included in our local revenues increase. That's typically common with property values increasing year to year. There was an increase in our state revenue for carryover transportation funds, like I mentioned before. The Filters First federal grants, you'll see it was an increase for our federal line item. And then we also had our Sterling-based health center project reimbursement. So any expenditures that we incurred for that project will reimburse back to us, and that project finished this year. So overall, we're seeing a $16.268 million revenue in our general fund. Now looking at expenditures, so a lot of these grants were pretty much ins and outs, are all reimbursements based on expenditures. So Filters First grant was completed this year, and we will be receiving our last reimbursement on that. Sterling-based health center project was also completed earlier this year. We paid out our 27L funds that we paid out first pay in May. So that's all taken care of, that's about $157,000. We have been seeing an increase in utility costs and fuel costs. Obviously, everything going on by Iran oil prices, there's been a pretty significant increase. Heating, let alone, has seen an increase between last year and this year, $40,000. Fuel costs have seen about $20,000 in an increase. So we have our new curriculum also for our elementary schools for next year. I included that $51,000 in this budget. I am at this point projecting to actually have that be a prepaid expense if we end up paying that out, that check before year end. So really the expenditures will be impacting next fiscal year, but that's, I don't want to make sure in case that didn't work out. The auditors didn't like it for some odd reason. I want it to be covered in for overage purposes. You'll also notice for capital outlay, we have $174,000. This includes our bus purchases this year, and we had 3 for $35,000. This is where the Sterling Base Health Center projects expenditures are located. And then there's a PASD standard for leases. We have to record the expenditures related to those. That's included in our capital outlay line item. But technically that's duplicated in one of our line items because actually during our audit process it's transferred out. I have to work with our auditor to figure out which one he wants to actually transfer out. So technically that's duplicate. I'm also working on, I plan to reclass our bus purchases to our capital projects funds, which is only impact on our general funds, just to help out our general fund a little bit. As it stands right now, we're looking at about $400,000 deficit, but that's before the transfer of the bus purchase. That's before $51,000 curriculum going to actually be expense next year. So really, this was kind of our worst case scenario budget. Realistically, we'll be looking at a better outcome this year. I also, since this is my first go around with accounts payable rules, I left some cushion depending on utility bills, things of the sort that come in. So it states that it's $400,000 deficit, but truly it will work out to be a better outcome. Also, I know, no capital transfer for 25-26. That's kind of a given with it being a deficit, but I know that's been a point of interest for the district over the years where we would like to transfer money to our capital projects to help maintain our buildings. So just want to keep that as noted. So looking at 26-27, couple of things to note. We're still, like I mentioned, waiting on the Michigan budget. Hopefully they pass by July 1st. There was a lot of optimism a couple months ago, but the closer we're getting to July 1st, the less optimistic we're getting, and the more realistic that it might be actually ending up how it was last year. But only time will tell. Looking at it though, for foundation allowance, it would be an estimated 2.5% increase, so plus $150 for our foundation allowance. And looking at expected pupil counts, I looked at the trend. So on average over the past 10 years, there has been a 30 pupil decrease each year, but that's on average. So that's the assumption that I used when creating this budget. Looking at 26-27 expenditures, all these line items include negotiated contractual changes, we have benefit cost changes, any staff that have retired, any staff that have resigned, and additions replaced those staff. You'll notice there's a total of $15.8 million of expenditures. As it stands right now, I have no capital outlay budget for this year besides the copy release, which is required for the standard. And at this time, we are projecting a deficit, and we'll continue to update it through January. Okay, now we're done with general fund. We can move on to food service fund. So this is our 25-26 amendment for food service. State revenue decreased slightly this year. That's based on numbers I have are amounts from our June state status report, and federal revenues also decreased slightly. Expenditures for this fund don't tend to vary too much. It's usually kind of just a self-sustaining fund, so you really don't see too many swings. The one line item that really causes a swing in your expenditures and your fund balance is your capital outlay. This year, the only capital outlay that we had was our milk cooler that we purchased, and several racks for the milk cooler. So really, we're looking at a deficit, which is good, of $16,000 for this fund because we're only required by law to have 3 months of expenditures in our fund balance. Okay, looking at 26-27, so this will be next year's. State revenue will be relatively similar. Federal restricted revenue will be relatively similar. Same with local revenue. There really isn't too many swings, especially since a lot of this is based on a la carte items, student count. There's really not too much that goes into it. Expenditures are going to be relatively similar as well. I would like to see an increase in capital outlay, something to really spend down that fund balance so that we can actually improve some of the equipment that we have in our food service program. Because like mentioned, we want to make sure that we're not exceeding those 3 months expenditures. And on to the final fund, the student activity fund. So this is all of our fund, or our accounts for fundraisers, any events, various field trips, our athletics, our clubs. We're looking at the report I ran on Skyward, about $250,000 of revenue on the year. Expenditures would be about $275,000, so we're eating into our fund balance of about $25,000. And then looking at next year, really there's a lot of variations that happen with these accounts. It just depends on how many fundraisers you hold, how well the fundraisers go. It really ebbs and flows. Some years you can have $300,000, some years you can have $150,000. I kind of just went right in the middle of projecting we'll have about $200,000 coming in, about $200,000 coming out. And the language on the right just explains that all the unallowable expenditures for this fund, because there are a lot of strict laws that go with it. So for example, golf fees, you can pay for golf fees for your team, but I can't go and use student activity funds to go play around and make live. That's pretty much all that's being said. You also can make contributions or donations outside of the district. And then really, at bare minimum, any funds that you fundraise for or collect on really should be spent for the students and purposes of what you're fundraising for. That's just a good rule of thumb. That's all I have, unless everybody has any questions.
Thank you. Anybody? Okay. Thank you. Okay, on to our report from our administrative staff. John, you have anything?
No, that's it.
Dr. Braun?
Yeah, a couple things. We have been in the process of hiring teachers and doing interviews and all the things. One of them is here tonight. Danielle Steinbauer is going to be one of our new special ed teachers. So that spot is filled and we're super excited to have her. We filled the high school ELA position, and she will be moving up here. And then we are hopeful on a middle school hire that interviewed with us last week. Talking to him today, looking at housing type of thing, but very promising. So we're excited to have that filled. I know our orientation and registration for students will be live and open on the website. I'll be sending out a memo home to families so they can get that done throughout the summer. And then if they have any questions, your secretaries will be available. The Title I grant and allocations were given to us just recently and opened. And right now, before any of the carryover, we look like we're sitting really good with all the numbers. So that's very positive for us because last year the budget was upside down and non-existent for a while, so that will be good. And then I just wanted to add to Mr. Kowalczyk's Cheesetown. I heard from several of our staff members and the band director that whatever the community and the city did this year with Cheesetown was phenomenal. Everything ran super smoothly, and everything just seemed to be really organized and good efforts on everyone. So I just wanted to note that for our community.
Thank you.
So are there any teacher openings at this point that have not been filled?
Our ELA for middle school. If
But
that
you're
is
working on that one?
Yep, other than that, we will be
That's
good to
it.
go.
Good.
Ladies? Yep. Nothing? Allison?
I do. I think Andy shared with all of you a report, an MTSS report last time around, but we skipped over that. And if he did not, I can share that with you, so you can see the results of some of the work over the past year. But I wanted to touch on a few things. The 5 administrators, 2 elementary and 3 middle school, high school, attended the ISD's Attendance Works Conference, and we bounced ideas off of one another on improving attendance and looking at our systems that we had in place and maybe tweaking them a little bit. At the middle school, we sent home a summer learning challenge flyer for all of our students that were involved in MTSS last year, so they can pick and choose some summer learning things. And we are going to have a drawing the first day of school. and Frank's Great Outdoors donated a rod and reel. The Saginaw Zoo donated a family 4-pack of tickets, and the Loons donated a family 4-pack for their last home game of box ticket seats. So I wanted to share that with you. And then our special education department has been making some changes to provide some tier 2 and 3 supports for our students. And so we are going to be running that new EI resource room. We applied for a grant. We got $9,600 in funding. $8,500 came from the Bay Area Community Foundation and $1,300 from the 2% grant. And we're going to use that funding to create some calming spaces within the EI classroom, and then one in the general education part, so that when students are out, they have a safe spot to go and kind of regulate themselves. And then provide some SEL education for the teachers that are working in that space. But as an admin team, we're continuing to learn and grow and reflect and make some changes and tweak things.
All right, that's good. Thank you. Jeremy? Okay, Gary, you have anything to add
Oh, our report?
from?
Yeah, I can give a report here. Because we met before this meeting. And there's 3 of us there, Hunter. Yes. We had a few questions, just we made sure his one-time money wasn't being counted into next year. He covered all of that, and the expenses are going away with any of the one-time funds, so we're not missing any of those unfunded liabilities. We've discussed the student count quite a bit. This number of 30 we feel is conservative. So that's, we feel good about that. We think if anything, we would hope that we'll be able to beat that and retain more students. Let's see the other notes. Oh, one thing we also talked quite a bit about is our capital improvements fund, which he talked about starting to take some funds out to pay for buses and to help our general fund balance. So just to be cautionary there, we're reaching the 1.2 million in that fund, and that's a level that the board said we did not want to go below, because if there was a catastrophic roof failure or something, those funds would be enough to carry us through to repair such a project. So yes, he is taking some funds from there, but we are suggesting caution as we get towards that limit, that we need to maybe make some other adjustments and move that money somewhere else and not count on that fund for those kind of purchases in the future. Then we went over the non-affiliated contracts that we're going to be approving. I think that's on the consent agenda. Oh, that's on the non-consent agenda. Yep. We're recommending approval for everything that's proposed. We reviewed the ones that were outside of the 2.5, which seemed to be the norm for the district. And there was one that was above 2.5%. It was because based on the expertise and the position, the person is being underpaid at Pinconning compared to statewide and local levels. So we're bringing that person up to a level which is comparable with surrounding districts, so we can maintain that person. And the other adjustments are in GSRP. Those are funded through GSRP funds, and there was an imbalance in their salaries, so there was an adjustment made to a couple of individuals to bring them up to the approved step 3 max level, which they should be at. The superintendent and Hunter are both under contract. This is so we're going to be approving their second year of a 3-year contract. Okay. That was all we covered.
What about the budget that Hunter just did?
We're recommending accepting it. Yep. Yeah, with those cautions that I just mentioned, with the building fund balance getting dangerously low. Not lower limit, but reaching that point where after next year, we'll have to consider how we can start building that back up, continue to use it. Did I miss anything, guys?
No, I think it was it. Just gonna ask.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on.
And we thought we complimented him on,
Oh.
for his, we were very impressed. First year, nice job.
Gary?
Yep.
Okay, on to the consent agenda then.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda and pay bills total $792,834.91.
Support.
Yeah, motion support, any discussion?
Chris, did you sit in on any of these hirings?
No.
We had discussed that. Maybe a board member could sit in on those in the future. I would maybe ask Mr. Paul, maybe make a note, Mr. Paulcheck, to bring you in if you're still available for those. Because I think it'd be nice to have a board member sit in on.
I don't know, was anybody in on it?
If I bring it up, you wanted someone to sit in all new and all hirings, or just?
At least to check and see if,
Who was on the hiring committee? Just, okay. And then John took care of his elementary ones?
It was me and lower round teacher, 2 upper round teachers, and social work.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay,
Roll call. Roll call. Gary Young
yes.
and Chris Rich.
Yes?
Leah Rulo,
Yes.
Bonnie Holstein.
Yes.
Augur Richard, yes. Brad Doobie.
yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. So you got the right clothing on already?
Bad wrestling team.
Oh, really?
My daughter's at Concord right now, so.
Yay. This,
Not consent.
consent agenda. Okay, the final amended budget. 26 or 25-26.
I'll move to accept the 25-26 final amended budget as presented for the general fund, food service, and student activities account.
Support, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Gary Harris.
Yes.
And Bonnie Holstein.
Yes.
Leah Rulo,
Yes.
Chris Rich.
Yes.
Augur Richard, yes. Brad Doobie.
Yes. And item B, 26-27 proposed budget.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 budget as presented for general fund, food service, and student activities.
Support.
Motion support, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Bonnie Holstein.
Yes.
Gary Harris.
Yes.
Leah Rulo,
Yes.
Chris Rich.
Yes.
Augur Richard, yes. Brad Doobie.
Yes. Item C, the first reading of the 26-27 middle school handbook.
I move to approve the first reading of the 2026-2027 middle school handbook.
Motion support, any discussion?
It was a lot of pages. I went through it, right, and it was 60 pages long, and we deleted, 14 pages of the athletic handbook to make a new athletic handbook. It's a lot of work, I get it, I'm sure it didn't happen overnight. I just wanted a little more time to look it over, I don't know.
They do have second reading.
Okay,
Yeah.
The 27th, you guys have a second reading.
okay, and then who writes it all? Like, who helps you guys? Just to be real.
And then we look at Neola policy and all of the things that are suggested that we keep legally
Yes.
in there via the state. So we have to make sure those are in there and linked as well, so they can find the Neola policy.
I would recommend that everybody make sure they go through the whole thing before we do the second reading. Would you guys, if they have a question, want them to email it to you? That way, in case it's something that you guys missed, or, okay. So everybody, if you have a question on a.
This seemed more drastic than prior ones, is that?
It sure did.
We're trying to clean it up because we worked on it a year ago, and we're still trying to clean it up because we inherited this, and it was
I remember you guys chopped some there and straightened up language and things, and
And that's why we put the athletic handbook separately, and then that way there can be a link directly on the athletic website, and for when kids do final forms, they have that right there. They don't have to sift through the entire 66-page student handbook. They can just go down, I think now it's down to 14 pages, and it's pretty clear.
We just cleaned it up. There's some things repeated in places that didn't need to be repeated, and
Right.
just tried to work on some formatting and.
A lot of attendance is X'd out. Is
Yeah.
that based on what you had just met on?
So there were like
Briefed us on?
3 different places that attendance was addressed
And it
And-
stated the same thing.
over and over, so we just combined everything that was necessary into the attendance policy. So it was just repeated in multiple spots that really didn't make any sense, and now it's just one spot where attendance is.
And there's a flow to it too, like, it makes better sense on, this is what the policy is, these are what will happen, and then here's the reward part at the end of it.
Yeah.
Where before it was all chopped up.
Yeah, I felt the same way about electronics. A lot of that was removed because they're not supposed to have them, so therefore we don't need this.
Yeah,
That's
academic,
what I thought.
yep, academic, same thing, there's just some programs that haven't been in existence that came out and just sort of aligned with everything.
right there.
Yeah. You gonna unplug the owl?
More things with dealing with the technology change. It is. Okay, was there anything else? Again, I just recommend that everybody make sure they go through that whole thing. Set?
Yes.
So I had a motion and support.
Yes, maybe I'll ask the question afterwards. We can address, we don't have to address each question
Okay.
now. Yeah, we can do this one-on-one
Okay.
with an email.
And like you said, it's just for free.
Right, so I got a couple of,
All changes would need to be provided before the 27th, so we could have the clean
Yeah.
version on the 27th to approve.
So we have the motion and support. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Then the first reading of the 26-27 middle school athletic handbook.
I move to accept the first reading of the 2026-2027 high school athletic handbook.
Oh, wait, it's been-
Okay.
is this something that
Sorry.
the athletic committee, because you guys met on this. I remember you gave us an update.
We met and we talked about writing it, but the athletic committee wasn't involved with the actual writing about it. We talked about writing one, where is it, hadn't been updated in a long time. But this is the first I've seen it.
This is the first time we've ever done that. I talked to Mr. Floyd and Mr. Kowalczyk to see if we could make the first step of separating it, so then your committee can look at it and see if there needs to be anything added, deleted, and that way we can all be in on the conversation.
Personally, I printed them out because, they're both 14 pages. They look very similar to middle school, high school. Very small changes, nothing special. I really don't have a problem with any of it. The only thing is when we met, we asked for a coach's handbook to go along with it. Because I feel like we are holding our kids accountable, but our coaches are not held as accountable. Not that we have a whole lot of problems. We talked about trying to get the communication to be the same. What apps they're using or what form of communication they're using. And we see the disciplinary, and that's great guidelines for them. We just want to make sure the coaches are on the same pages. That was my only concern. I really don't have a concern with what is laid out at all. And I'll go through it a little closer, but I'd like to see a coach's handbook.
And I know that there is one when we do an initial, like a fall coaches meeting prior to the school year starting. I know that in the past, we have given every coach a handbook. I don't know where that handbook is. I'm assuming it is with Mr. Floyd in the athletic department.
I think he had.
But I know that they do get one every single year with all the same stuff, but coaches' duties as well. So that would be something that we could definitely look at to align.
Surprising enough, Hunter just brought it up today. It's coaches and activity
related handbook, activity
Well, it
handbook.
might be a combination. I know
It's a
there's a
combination.
student activity one
It's
for sure.
it's a student activity handbook, and it says student activities and coaches. And it's actually posted on our website, but when we looked at it, I don't think it's been updated since 2023. So that is something we just talked about today on.
I would
What
like
it would
to
be
see,
like.
I'd like to see like Mr. Floyd and members of the athletic
Right.
committee with the, the principals or whatever, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a,
Absolutely, because Mrs. Enciso had ideas of using final forms to report if the child was absent or not. You know, the coach doesn't know if the child is actually in school or not that day. And so the kid shows up, he goes to practice, he was in school all day, but the coach doesn't know. So I was trying to use something with final forms and pair it together where the coach knows, and maybe we use final forms more for our communication. I'm not sure how that works. I know there's a lot of people who use the band app. But as a parent, I kind of like it to be the same, right?
Well, also said there's a discrepancy with trying to get them to use, like, the resources are there, but it's, you can't leave that horse to water. Yeah. So they have to make that choice to do that, so that seems to be probably from Mr. Floyd to direct it, that they have to do it.
I gotta ask you a question. On your acceptance notes there, does it say middle school or high school?
This one says high school.
We do have to change it.
Yes.
I can,
And
You can edit it on the left.
yep, sure can.
Bonnie, can you amend, was it Bonnie made a motion?
Yes.
Amend your motion to read the same as you did, except for instead of high school, it should be middle school.
Oh, yes, you're right.
We're on middle school.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
So-
sure, I can do that.
We're to amend that, motion to read, from Bonnie for 26-27 middle school athletic on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Got it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, then none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then item B is the first reading of 26-27 high school athletic.
I move to accept the first reading of the 2026-2027 high school athletic handbook.
Okay, any discussion? Oh, I got a motion.
I'll support it.
A motion to support. Any discussion? I guess other than the same reasons that we just did with the middle school.
And this one reads correctly, so we're good.
Okay, so, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. I think that's the last one there. Any public comments? Okay. That's from the board. Any discussion items?
I just think that is a great thing that they are doing as far as using, the resources from the new EI to create common spaces for the students. That's so helpful when they just need a moment to reflect, so it's a great idea.
My only thing is going back to our presentation. As Andy gets information, I think everybody has to be on board, ready to voice their concerns. The bathroom is a big one for me. I would say absolutely kindergarten through at least second grade, if not third, if it can fit in there. And understandably, there's gonna be a separate bathroom there. Anybody else? I know Gary brought up the
Security.
cafetorium.
Cafeteria, a lot of people ask.
If you don't know what one is, really nice ones. It's a pretty amazing setup the way it is. Traverse City has some, there's some pictures online of theirs to get an idea of a cafeteria hooked to an auditorium with the general area, the kitchens. It's, the way the high
Yeah,
school,
we need some pictures of that.
the way the high school would have, been done up that way.
We're gonna need some verbiage direction so that we can kind of answer questions the same, like to attest to what Gary was saying, like that way we're, like, obviously we don't need to know the details and we won't until they actually get it approved and start, but for us all to be on the same page with how our conversation.
Were you on the board for, the one who did this one? Didn't you guys have them then? You guys had flyers? Cause I think we teachers
Yes,
had
yes,
to
yes.
exactly how to.
This one is quite different because that one had failed 24 times before.
Yeah.
So everyone really knew as we were going along how it was getting tweaked. Because it was more about, people would ask questions, how's it different from the last one? How's it different from mine? This one, it's all new. So I think it's gonna be a little different experience than that last one. That one we nearly passed, and then we had to scale it. We scaled it back a little bit. So everybody already had seen the boards for years and years. This one we want to pass it in one try. We don't want to go through that again.
Right.
And we're doing our homework ahead of time this time, scaling it back. We've already done that. We're down to what people say they can afford.
Yeah.
But we definitely need to know.
Right. I think to answer the question, yes, we're going to have something that are speaking points that, you know, if Paul says that, or Gary said that, it's gonna be the exact same thing. Yeah, I mean, along with the design stuff and, you know, location of things, everybody's
And
gonna.
it'll probably be important when Andy holds his first public hearing, we all go. And we all absorb the same information the public's getting in that one. If he doesn't have one for us privately beforehand.
Well, I think we.
I hope we're gonna be involved in the development of this. We're gonna have that information ahead of time.
Just one other thought then, is it helpful to us then if we were to have like a section or a table or something at some of these local festivals where we can meet to talk with people? Because showing up at Pickle Festival that's on the Woodell property, you know, I would assume that there's gonna be a lot of people who might have questions. And if they see some of the board, that might be a good opportunity to show our presence.
Right. As long as
The
we're.
problem is, he said he's not gonna, it's gonna be too early.
Right.
It's gonna be too early.
We might not
He's not gonna have that.
Just general questions.
Right.
So,
Other than the same stuff that we did at town hall meetings.
I think,
And
I
then
think
that
if
little
we're there and we're not
sample
answering, that's not good. And we don't have,
have something.
right, or not be there at all, if we're not ready to share. The other question I get a lot is, how can you build all that for that small amount of money? I get that. Are you getting that too? That they don't believe it's that small?
Yeah, I think they're looking at.
They're not realizing it's carrying over the current.
Two buildings and you're gonna build one. Right. How do you take all the kids from two buildings and put it in this little building, little addition? Just knowing that we're utilizing empty rooms.
I don't think people realize how underutilized Linwood is.
Correct. Okay. That's the rest of the discussion, then I need one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. Motion support, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?